You've heard of the first draft, the second draft, third draft, and so forth, but have you heard of something called the zero draft? If you've ever had to open a blank document, typed a few words, deleted them, and then spent the next 10 minutes staring at the blinking cursor, then a zero draft might be helpful for you. As a writer, you want your first draft to be something good, something you could be proud of, but the pressure to make it perfect can stop you from writing anything at all. So here's the secret that most professional writers know. Your first draft isn't supposed to be perfect. It's not even supposed to be good. But if doing a draft of a book is daunting, then you can try calling it the zero draft, a draft that isn't even a draft at all. Zero draft is messy, unfiltered version of your ideas or your story. This is the part where you're just trying to figure out what you're really trying to say. It's not about structure or grammar or making anything sound pretty. This is about just simply pounding out the ideas in your head and getting them on the piece of paper. By the end of this video, you know exactly what the difference is between a zero draft and a first draft, and why understanding that difference can make writing faster, easier, and most importantly, a lot more fun. What is a zero draft exactly? Let's dive into it. Think of it as the very first time you tell the story to yourself. It's not meant for anyone else's eyes, not your editor, not your writing group, not even your dog. The zero draft is just for you, where you spill everything that's in your head and getting it on the page. The good ideas, the bad ideas, the half-formed scenes or sentences that might not even make sense, not even to you. You're not worrying about grammar, punctuation, or perfect phrasing here. You're just trying to figure out what you're thinking. Some writers call it a word vomit, others might call it a brain dumping. Whatever you call it, whatever it is, the goal is really the same: to silence your inner critic and just get words on paper, just like splashing them onto the paper like paint. Here's how I think about it. If writing a book is like painting a picture, the zero draft is your rough sketch. You're exploring the shapes and colors, not worrying about the final details quite yet. It's the safe space in your creative process where you can take risks, explore wild, crazy ideas, and even write things that make no sense or completely contradict each other. Because here, no one is judging you. You're not going to show this to anybody. You're simply laying the foundation of what you will eventually become the first draft. Once you've poured out that messy, chaotic zero draft, then it's time, and only then, to move on to the next stage, which is the first draft. Now, this is where you start to bring a little bit of order to the chaos. You're already told the story to yourself. Now you're just trying to put things in order, trying to make sense of it here. First draft is where your writing really begins to take shape. You start to maybe number your scenes, figuring out where the big gaps are, give your ideas a logical flow. And this is important. It's still not about perfection. The goal isn't to make it publishable, not quite yet. For example, if F. Scott Fitzgerald, who wrote The Great Gatsby, could write 30 or 40 drafts of some scenes, then I think that gives you permission to not get it right on the first try. Your first draft is when the molding of that clay becomes almost recognizable. Face maybe, a figure or a form. And of course, as I mentioned, it's still rough around the edges, but there's some resemblance of structure. You can see the forest through the trees. This is a draft where you might start caring about things like pacing, transitions, or whether the actions of the characters make sense, but you're still allowed to make mistakes. And again, very important. In fact, here is where you should make mistakes. That's how writing gets better. Here, try writing in second person or try things that you wouldn't normally do. Your first draft is simply the first version that could be read by somebody else. You could read it to your dog and hopefully they would understand what's going on. It's the bridge between creative chaos and intentional storytelling. And here's where most writers get stuck. They skip the zero draft entirely. They sit down and try to make their first draft close to perfect. And from the very first sentence, they run into trouble and they freeze. They might overthink. They start editing one paragraph for an hour instead of just writing the next one. That's the danger of skipping the zero draft. You don't have to do a zero draft, but I recommend at least you try it. It gives you permission to think aloud on paper. It's like talking aloud, but writing it down. And it's where everything just goes chaotic. You ask questions to yourself and discover what the story really is about. Skipping the zero draft can sometimes feel like trying to build a house without blueprints, and skipping the first draft is like leaving all of those building materials in a pile and just calling it architecture. When you use both the zero draft and the first draft, you create a natural flow from creative exploration to clear expression. It's how professional writers write faster, stress less, and produce more work that actually resonates with the readers. Now that you know why both drafts matter, let's talk about how to actually do it. When you start writing your zero draft, the number one rule is simple. Whatever you do, do not edit. No backspacing, no fixing sentences, no rewriting, no second guessing yourself. Just write. I would recommend that you set a timer for maybe 20 to 30 minutes. That feels long, try 15 and type whatever comes to mind. You can even start with something like, okay, so this story is about, etc., and go from there. If you get stuck, do not stop. Use placeholders. It could be describe the setting later or find a better name for this character here. This keeps the momentum going, and momentum is super important at this stage because without pulling yourself out of the creative flow, it can really help you get the words on the paper. The point isn't to write something good, to write something at all. The next step is turning the zero draft into the first draft. So once you've finished that wonderful chaotic zero draft, take a short break, put it in a drawer, take a break for maybe a day or two or even a week, then come back with fresh eyes. And instead of writing from scratch, you've now got some sort of a structure and you can rewrite with purpose. You should read through your zero draft and look for patterns, reoccurring themes, emotional beats, or lines that stand out. These are your guideposts. From there, start shaping your first draft. You can reorganize your structure, edit out confusing parts, fill in missing details, and focus on flow if you want. The next step is simple. It's rinse and repeat. So once you've used the rhythm of the zero draft to get going, then you start your first draft, then your second, and so forth, and keep refining as you go. Your writing will become much easier. You'll spend less time battling perfectionism and more time actually finishing your writing goals. So the next time you sit down to write, remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to begin and you have to start. You could start with a zero draft, get it all out on paper, let it be messy, that's okay. Then as you move forward, shape it into something beautiful. You can go straight from your zero draft into your first draft and tell me in the comments how things are going, how things are progressing, because I'd love to know. And if you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and check out my next videos on writing. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.